We are on Daf Vav Amid Beis. 7 lines from the top. Ibayalu. This is going on the Mishnah. We had said that there's this halacha, the Mishnah talks about, that you can't engage in commerce with Avdei Kechavim prior to their holidays. As we saw, the machlekes of whether they're either because they're going to be marviach or because of lifnei iver. But the bottom line is, because they're going to be in some way celebrate on the holidays in their Avoda Zara, that's us. Ibaylu. Nosav and Nosan Mai. 7 lines in the top on Vav on the base. What happened if someone violated this halacha, and he did so? He engaged in commerce with a Oived Kechavim. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Nosav and Nosan Asa. Rabbi Yochanan says that whatever they have received because of this Vav on the base, 7 lines in the top. So Rabbi Yochanan says whatever the Yid received in this commerce, and where he violated the halacha, is going to be also. It's a takanas chachamim that he can't benefit from what he did. Rish Lakish says there's no such issue. Eser Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan brings a raya that it is awesome, that he can't make use of this. Brisa says the holidays of Avdei Kechavim, when someone benefited or when someone engaged in commerce, nasav and asurim, what they did becomes asur. My lav lefnei idein. Doesn't that mean if he had engaged in commerce 3 days beforehand, that in spite of the fact that you're not allowed to, that what he got from it is asur? That's a different thing. That the Gemara seems to be suggesting that even Rabbi Rish Lakish, who says 3 days before is asur, he would be maskim that what you did on the actual, what a yid did on the actual holiday would remain asur. But 3 days before with taka, it would not be asur. Ikadami, some have this discussion the other way around. It was a kash from Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan from this brisa. The brisa says that on the holidays of Avdei Kechavim, whatever commerce you've done, the produce, what you get from that commerce, is us. But the Bamashmois says idein in lifnei idein light. The brisa says on the holiday it's also, but not beforehand. And Rish Lakish only argued that it's mutter before the holiday. So Gemara Tana Aidi va'Aidi idein korelei. Gemara says no. When it says idein, it means on the holiday as well as the 3 holidays beforehand, and therefore it's not a kash from Rabbi Yochanan. When the brisa said that idein is also, it meant also for the 3 days before. Tanya Kavasa de Rish Lakish, another raya to Rish Lakish connected Rabbi Yochanan. Kisha Amru also veloses imayin. When we say that it's usher to do business with Avdei Kechavim before the holidays, that's only if you do something, as we're going to see, and the Gemara is going to say this means if you sold something to a guy, it's only something that's not a perishable. That means if you sold a hamburger 3 days before Yom Tov and he's going to eat the burger immediately, and by the time the holiday comes, the burger's not around anymore, that's not a problem. It has to be something that's still going to be existing, that the guy will look at it and he'll have nachas. If you sold him a house, he's looking at his house, he's happy. You sold him a horse or a vase, so he still has the vase. But something that's not miskayim, there's no asa. Isser. And even if it's something that's still around, nasav and nasan mutter. The brisa says clearly that if you did it nevertheless, if someone was over and sold a vase to a guy, or sold a house to a guy, or it's mutter for the yid to be nana he's not also to use that money that he got from it. Tani Rav Zvid b'debei Rav Aishia dava she'imiskayim moichelhen aval ein loikha mehen. He said that which we said you can't davar she'enim miskayim. You're allowed to if you're allowed to sell them, for example, a hamburger. That means you can sell them a burger. It doesn't mean that if the guy sells you a burger and you eat it before Yom Tov, that's mutter. Because the guy has his money and he's going to be looking at the money, and money is fungible. It doesn't mean he has to have that actual $2 that he got for the burger. He's still going to be happy for the sale, and he's still going to feel like his bank account is a little higher. Ahu mina, the Shadle Dinra Kisran al Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. There was a min, which in this case I believe means Ovid Kechavim, but it's somebody that one should not, someone that you're not allowed to do business with. And he gave a dinra, the Sadule Dinra Kasranala Yehuda Nasiya B'Yayim Ida. He sent him a gift. He sent a gift, a Caesarean dinar to Rabbi Yehuda, to the Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, and it was on their holiday, so he's also he's also to accept it. Yosef Reish Lakish Kamei. Reish Lakish was sitting in front of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. Amar Hechi Avid. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya asked, "What should I do?" Ashkale Yazulu Maida. If I take it, he's going to go ahead and this is the reason for the takana. He's going to then he's going to make a prayer on the holiday, thanking the Rebbeinu, thanking his Avid Kechavim, that he had the benefit of giving a gift to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. That people always give the president golf clubs. They give him a silver thing, or Bibi Netanyahu gave Trump a golden beeper. So, Netanyahu felt very good that Trump accepted his gift. So it's the same thing, that this guy will feel good that Yehuda Nasiya accepted his gift, and Yehuda Nasi accepted the gift, and then he's gonna be moida to his Avid Kechavim. Lay ashkale, but if I don't take it, havale eva, it's going to cause fight, it's going to cause problems, it's going to cause hatred, and he's going to cause trouble for the Jews. Take it and throw it into a pit in front of this min. He said, if you tell me to do that, certainly it's going to cause a problem. How are you giving me a suggestion? So I meant you should do it. You should do it without make it appear like a mistake. You stand by a sewer and you take the ring that he gave you and you drop it in this. You fumble it and you drop it in the sewer. So the guy is not going to be happy about the gift he gave, because he's going to know that it didn't end up by the yid, and hopefully it won't cause evil. So he said in the Mishnah, we said 4 things you can't do. You can't buy or sell items to a guy in the 3 days before. You can't borrow or lend a pikadon. You can't lend an object or borrow an object to them. You can't lend or take or borrow money from them. And what was the other thing? I don't remember. And pay back a previous debt. So I can understand why you can't lend something to a guy, because now he has the object. So of course he's happy about it. If you borrow something from him, he's missing something. So why would he be happy about it? Abaye says it's a gzera. Once you are lending to them, once you're borrowing from them, you'll also be obligated when he asks to lend to him. Rava says, no, it's like we explained in the Mishnah, the guy is going to be happy that he was the benefit, that someone took it from him. He feels good that someone owes him now. So when you borrow from the guy, he's going to be happy about that as well. And so that was talking about when you borrow or lend an object. Now we're talking about borrowing or lending money. The same question, we can understand why a guy will be happy that he borrowed money. Why would he be happy that he lent money? Rava says, Rabbi says the same teretz that it's Xera. And Rava says, again, the same teretz here as well. The guy will be happy that he had the opportunity to lend a yid, and now the yid owes him. The pyron man. And we said also you can't pay them back for something that they are owed. If you owe the money to a guy, you can't pay him back right before the holiday, and you also can't accept the payment from the guy. What is there to celebrate by a guy when he pays off his loan? Abai again says it's Xera that will go the other way around. You'll come to pay him back also. Again, the same thing, that he's going to be happy that he paid it off. He's going to have a good feeling that he paid you off. You're going to look at he's going to know that it's off his back. We need all the different cases that we said. The first thing that we said is that you can't buy or sell things from a guy mishum de kamar. Anyone who enters into a transaction, those who know Adam Smith and the laws of a free market, is that people enter into a transaction because the thing that they want is more valuable to them than the thing that they have. So they're entering into a free transaction. They feel they're profiting by buying it. And if he's going to go and praise his Avoda Zara. But borrowing from them, the muti kamaylu shapedam. I might say when you borrow from them, that so they're losing something. I might say that's not a problem. They're not going to praise. Vitana lishol mehen mishum dechashiva le'milsa. Bazul umayda. As far as borrowing, and this is talking about borrowing in general, you borrow either money or an object. So those that there's a chashivas to it. That means when you borrow from a guy, there's a certain chashivas that you have his object by him. But to borrow from them, tzara b'alma islay. It's lending someone money is always a pain in the neck. Amar toiv lo hadri zuzi. He says, because you always say when you lend money, you don't know if you're going to get it paid back. If it's an object, you know that the object is there. You can go bring him to court and get it back. But as far as borrowing money, you don't know the guy doesn't know if he's going to actually get it back. So maybe on that, he wouldn't make a tefillah. He wouldn't make a praise to his avodas kechavim because he was able to lend a yid money. When he lends money to a yid, he'll say, listen, in the end, I'm going to be able to force him to pay back. I'm going to take him to court, even if it's just a loan of money and not an object. But still, there's a legal process to get my money back. But the last din that we said in the Mishnah, that as far as having a guy pay back his debt that he owes before his holiday, the Sule Hadri Zuzi, once he gives the money, he knows his bank account is smaller. How is he going? Why would we say he's going to go make a haidah on that? Therefore, it has to say that in the end, he's happy that he knows that he doesn't have a debt. He knows he's debt free, so he's going to be maida on that. So therefore, we needed all three things. So in the Mishnah, we said a machlokes on this. Yehuda argued on this last din that we said that you can't have a guy pay back his debt in the 3 days before the holiday. Yehuda says you can because in the end they're unhappy that they have to fork up money. Doesn't Rabbi Yehuda agree that even though it's hard to hand over the money, but in the end he's going to be happy that he's debt free? But we know that Rabbi Yehuda does understand the concept that people enjoy delayed gratification. Where do we see that? Vatanya Yehuda Aimer, Isha loy sosud b'mayid A woman cannot they used to put lime on their faces. Women would put lime on their face, and then over time it would cause their face to get bright red, which was considered attractive. But while the lime was on it, it wasn't attractive. It was it while it's on her, it's hurting. It's not pleasant to have on, and it doesn't yet make her look good. So Rabbi Yehuda says she shouldn't do that on Chol Hamoed, not talking about on Yom Tov. It's also to put on uh, cosmetics on Yom Tov, but on Chol Hamoed. But even on Chol Hamoed, you can't do it because it's not right now. It's causing her a tsar. It's not something that's helping her Yom Tov. But if it's a kind of lime that she can take off while it's still Yom Tov, while it's still Chol Hamoed, so if she's benefiting it from if she's going to benefit from it on Chol Hamoed, even though she puts it on Chol Hamoed and it's causing a tsar, since in the end she's going to benefit from it, it's not considered that she's doing something on Chol Hamoed for after Yom Tov. Even though it hurts now, everyone knows that beauty is no beauty without pain. So even though it causes her pain now, in the end, when she's going to look pretty, she's going to be happy on Chol Hamoed. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda does take into account the delayed gratification that she's allowed to do it on Chol Hamoed because she's going to eventually have hana from it. You can't bring a comparison from the halachas of Chol Hamoed. The kulu meitzer achshav samechel achazman. He says that everything you're allowed to make eichel nefesh. When you're cooking an egg, there's no simcha in the cooking egg. It's a pain in the neck. You have to stand over the oven. But because you're going to eventually have an egg to eat, so you're allowed to do it on Chol Hamoed. So there's no restriction in the first place on doing anything that will provide you a benefit on Chol Hamoed because it's the effort is front loaded. Saktamar. This Mishnah, Masnisin Deloik of Yeshua ben Karcha. This Mishnah is not like our Mishnah, where we said the machlokes between Rabbi.
Did you skip Ravina Amar?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
Ravina Amar, Ovid kechavim le'inyan parayin la'olam meitz. Ravina says that he disagrees. He says Ovid kechavim, as far as paying, it's not even he doesn't agree with the whole concept that la'achar zman a guy is going to be happy that he explains Rabbi Yehuda. He says that even though he's going to, when a person will eventually have hana, that's considered to be a hana now, and therefore we don't treat it as pain. But a guy, he says that Yehuda holds that he's never going to be happy. He doesn't believe in this thing. Avdei Kechavim don't look so much into the future. And even at the end, they're not going to be happy that they're out of debt. It just in general, it's not. Ravina says that Yehuda doesn't hold b'chlal that there's any hana in the end for paying off a debt. The Mishnah is not like Yeshua ben Karcha, meaning the two tzaddim of the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda, that they argue that the Rabbanan say, the Chachamim in our Mishnah say that it's always aser to take a payment from Ovid Kechavim, and Rabbi Yehuda says it's always mutter. Yeshua ben Karcha says it depends. So our Mishnah is like Rabbi Shimon Karcha. Both shitas are not like Rabbi Shimon Karcha. The Tanya, Shimon Karcha Omer, Mal b'shtar ein nifroin mehen, Mal v'apeh nifroin mehen. It depends on what kind of halva it is. If the halva that the Ovid Kechavim is paying back was a milva b'shtar, so the Ovid Kechavim knows he has to pay it back. So then he'll have hana for the fact that he got it off his back because he knew he was going to have to pay it back in the end. Milva apeh nifroin mehen. But if it's a milva peh, then you can take the money from the guy because you're saving it from him. It doesn't mean like it's because we're like it's davara of it, even though we know there's such a concept by Chol Hamoed. But the idea is, the way the Mefarshim explain, is that the guy is going to be unhappy because he wasn't so sure he was going to have to pay it back. There's no star. The Yid can't do it without, he's not going to be able to get money from him without proof. So when he pays it back, he was thinking maybe I'll just deny the loan. So that's going to be a tsar, and therefore he's not going to come to praise his Ovid Kechav, his, yeah. Yosef Rabbi Yosef Achure de Rababa, Yosef Rababa Kameh. Rabbi Yosef was sitting together with Rababa, and Rababa was standing Kameh de Rabbi Huna, Yosef Ka'ama. Rabbi Huna said, Hilchas Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Hilchas Rabbi Yehuda. He passed on Hilchas Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha and Hilchas Rabbi Yehuda. Hilchas Rabbi Yeshua ben Hadamar. That which we said, he said Hilchas Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha in this din of our Mishnah that we said he doesn't hold like either one of the shittas. It depends on whether it's b'shtar or b'peh. Rabbi Yehuda. What does he mean that Hilchas like Rabbi Yehuda? Obviously, it doesn't mean like Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah because he's saying that Hilchas like Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. It's a different din. The Tanya Hanois and Semel Etzevel Etzvayel Adam V'Tzavei Shachar. This we had several times in Shas. We had it Bava Kama many times in Bava Metzia. This machlekes. If someone gives a piece of wool to a dyer, someone who works to dye wool, and he told him, "I want you to dye it red," and instead he dyed it black. So dyeing it improves the value of that piece of wool. Shachar v'tzavay adam, or if he told him to make it black and he made it red, either way. Remeya says he was kaineh b'shinui. The dyer he stole the thing by not following the instructions, and there's a kinyan because he made a shinui in it. So therefore, it now belongs to him, and he has to pay back the demeit semer, and he keeps this newly dyed wool. Yehuda says he's not kained with a kinyan, for whatever, as the way the Gemara explains it over there, what the reason is, and therefore he has to return the wool. But the question is, how much does the owner have to pay for the value of the increase in the wool from being dyed? So we say it depends. If the amount, if the piece of wool was worth $10 originally, and when you dye it now black, it goes up to $13. So if a shvach yes and it took $1 of dye, so that means the owner gets back the wool, and all he has to do is pay him $1. He has to pay the value of the shvach. He just pays what the dyer expended. If it went up from $10 to $13, but the dyer spent $5 on improving it, all the dyer gets back is the amount that it's worth now, more than what it was worth at the beginning, the extra $3. So on that, we pass on like Rabbi Yehuda that if we go, he has to pay. That the dyer has to pay whichever is less. I'm sorry, the owner has to pay whichever is less. Ajun Rabbi Yosef la'ape. Rabbi Yosef turned his head away. He disagreed with Rabbi Huna's statement that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda and Yeshua ben Karcha. He's going to see it's because of this Rabbi Yehuda. So, and his problem wasn't because he disagreed with him. His problem was, why do you need to say it? Bishlam halacha Yeshua ben Karcha itzrich. Yatzei halacha is like Yeshua ben Karcha. He's arguing on the Rabbanan. And Rabbi Yehuda, but the problem is he's arguing on the Rabbanan. So he's coming to tell you that even so, the halacha is like Yeshua ben Karcha. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda, lamali. Why do you have to say that halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda in this machlokes by the Tzevei? Pshita, the machlokes v'achkach stam hilchos v'kastam. When you have a machlokes and afterwards the stam mishnah paskins one way, we go like the stam. Where do we see that? Machlokes v'bava kamu stam b'bava metzia. There's a machlokes. This machlokes or Meir Yehuda is in Bava Kama, and in Bava Metzia we have a stam that paskins like Rabbi Yehuda. That's nan kol mishana yadel atachtoina, v'chol b'chayzer yadel atachtoina. The second part is not really relevant, but it's saying a din legabe chazara. If someone's chayzer, they lose their advantage. But the first part, kol mishana, if you were told to do, which is our case of Tzeveya, who was told to do one way and he changes what he was done, yadel atachtoina, he's going to get paid the lesser of his expenses or what it went up in value. So why was it necessary? If we have a stam mishnah like Yehuda, why did Rav Huna have to say it? For Rav Huna mishum they ain't say the mishnah. Rav Huna said you have to say it because there's no storm in the Mishnah. Just because it said in Bava Metzia stam and in Bava Kama, first it said Bava Kama a machlekes and then a stam in Bava Kama doesn't mean that the stam was really before the machlekes. So if you're saying there's no seder, how can we ever have the concept of a stam v'achkach machlekes? You always say maybe the machlekes was after. Rav Huna kilei minayin seder b'chad masechta. Trei masechta amrinin. Rav Huna says no. There's no seder in the same masechta. But in two masechtas, whichever masechta is first, that's the machlekes, and the other one is the then. And then if Bava Kama comes before Bava Metzia, you can't say that what came in Bava Metzia was not before Bava Kama. Rav Yosef, Kulin Azikin Chadam Masechti. Rav Yosef, who didn't agree with this, he said that's true. I agree with your concept, but the three Bavas, Bava Metzia, Bava Kama, Bava Basra, are really one long Masechta that just got separated because it would have been too long. Another explanation of why we know the halacha is like that Stam Mishnah is because it was said in the form of saying a few halachas. It said not just this din of kol mashani. Obviously, the Mishnah was listing halacha psukas from the way it said a list of psak. A person shouldn't say. Shouldn't say to his friend on Chol on Shabbos. Let's see if you'll be able to help me tonight. He doesn't want to say directly because you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to talk business on Shabbos. But he says to him, "Let's see if you can get together with me," meaning we're going to work together. He says it's not a problem. It's sufficiently couched in in Kalacha Yad. You're not directly saying it, so it's okay. So another, this is just we're saying Psakim Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. It's not related to what we said before. Amar Rabbi Chana, Amar Rabbi Yechon, Helchas Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Halachas like Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Torabban Hanishal Lechacham v'Tima, Lo Yishal Lechacham v'Yitar. Someone asked a Talmud Chacham for a psak, and he said something is tamei. You shouldn't ask another Talmud Chacham to see if it'll be mitar. Lechacham v'Asar, Lo Yishal Lechacham v'Yater. If he said that something is asur, you shouldn't go and ask if it's mutter. You shouldn't go shopping for a heter. Hayushnayim echad mitam ve'echad mitar. But if the two chacham together, and one said it's tamei and one says it's tar, echad oisav echad mater. One says it's asur, one says mutter. Maya echad mehem gadol mechaver b'chacham avinyan halach achrov. Then you go after whichever one is a greater talmud chacham. Then lav halach achar machmer. If not, you go after the one that's machmer. Yishum karcha b'shel Torah halach achar machmer. B'deraisa you go after the machmer. B'shel seifrim halach achar mekel. Yishum karcha argues. He says you can be mekel on a derabban. Torabban v'chulu shchazu b'ayin ein mekabel n'ois anoi lamis. All this is a machlokes Rashi and Taisus. Taisus says it means if you have a Goslin or a Am Aretz that you're not allowed to accept their edus, their chashad ala edus. So Rashi says if they do tshuva, we don't accept their tshuva. We don't trust them. Taisus says it doesn't make any sense. Taisus says it's talking about where they already did tshuva and they went back. They were chayzer. They went chayzer b'sheila and they already reversed. And now they're being chayzer b'tshuva a second time. Do we trust the second time they did tshuva? It's hard to understand that we wouldn't accept someone's tshuva in the first place, like Rashi says. So, Divrei Rameir says we're not makabel them. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Chazru b'hem b'mat. Ma'iniyas ein makabel hen. Oisem perhaps you're makabel oisem. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. If they were chayzer in private, then we're not makabel because then there's no peer pressure on them. They can't change their minds. But if it's b'hasya in public, then we accept their tshuva. Ikadami also divrei b'mat ma'iniyas makabel oisem hen. If it depends what they did. It's talking about if they did an avera b'shaygig, then we accept their tshuva because they're not so set in their ways. B'farhesya, but someone who was over b'farhesya, we don't accept their tshuva We don't trust their
You
tshuva.
meant B'Shoigig or privately?
I don't think, no, we're not talking. We're talking about Rishaya. We're talking about basically someone who's a Goslin or a
Well, no, I thought
not
you
a
said,
Veris.
oh, you didn't, it's not B'Shoigig. No, I thought you
No,
meant.
no, we're talking about being
Oh,
not
good.
trustworthy legabe edis.
Right.
Rishaya is certainly
No,
kasha.
I thought you said that if they did also the brand B'Matmanis, you said B'Shoigig.
I said Rishaya, I'm sorry. It means the first
Privately.
thing, mine is the first shot was they did it in private.
All
Yeah,
right.
if they were chayzer in private. We're always makabel, and this is again another sheet of Rishu ben Karcha. Shenem Shuva banim shayvivim. We accept. Come do tshuva, and we're going to accept you. And we Yitzchak ish kvar akai. Am Rav Yechon hilchas says it. We ptaka paskin like them that we always accept tshuva. Shkayach. Have a wonderful day.
All right.